And good morning, good evening, and good morning and 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 good evening. No matter where you are, what time it is, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your Sensei Al Bob, your griot to tell you a story. And here it is, October 25th, I guess, give or take, right? Getting towards the end. And, since Carrot Head came down the escalator at his failed state on in Manhattan, the we have been experiencing an October surprise like virtually every 5 minutes. So basically, the general population is, just worn out. And I don't know if you've noticed, but everyone's getting ready for nuclear war. And how you doing that? Hmm? So I'm out here in no man's land of the deep green of the Cherokee National Forest, and I live in the midst of in the bottom holler of a Sawtooth Mountain Range, right between the Appalachian and the Blue Ridge, and it's like an accordion mountain range because it was a big thing, and then those two mountain ranges kind of came up and squeezed what was in between into a Sawtooth Mountain Range. So it's kind of like oh, maybe 200 miles long and maybe 150 miles, maybe 300 miles long and 150 miles wide, and narrower and longer in certain places, and it's not like a set rectangle. It's kind of all over the place. So that's me. I'm in the middle of it, and I'm right on the strange point between North Carolina, Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arkansas. They're all within 60 to 100 miles from me, or like actually between 10 and 100 miles from me. So they're all, so energetically, there's some really interesting stuff. And right behind me, right on my property, just right through it, is one of the largest energetic ley lines in North America. It goes right through my backyard, right? And that's why I have such amazing drinking water coming out of a spring. So I have a spring, a well, and another source, right? And I have actually four sources. I have a catchment off my roof, and I use that to drain my toilet. So if we had a real bad thing, I'd always have my backup to flush my toilet. So anyway, that's my lay of the land. And right now, actually, in the forests, it's I'm collecting forest food. There's a lot of things out there. There's a great radio. I only listen to public radio because that's all I get. Right, I don't get any. In the evenings, I get AM radio, right, and I listen to that. And I also get in the evenings short wave, right. So I kind of listen to those in the evening, and during the day, the only thing that I really get that's pretty solid is the public radio station. And I do get a kind of country station that's pretty good. I like that. And there's your basic top 40 radio station. That's not that bad. It's got Delilah. She's interesting. And there is some guy out in the middle of, I have no idea what he's doing, but he's a Bible thumping guy. He's like, you know, he says that he's in a underground bunker, but I have no idea where he is. But he's a strong signal, so he's a pirate station. Because from how I'm located, I just happen to be right in the line of sight of his signal wherever he is, and so uh, so I get a lot of different stuff, and I go to three churches. I go to the Ku Klux Klan Southern Baptist Church. I go to the WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Methodist church. They own everything. And I go to the, pagan Roman Catholic church, which I'm a recovering um, Roman Catholic. I went to off to be, I mean, my early part of my life, it was a blessing and a curse. I was, my mom had me when she was 50, so no one expected me to show up. I did. She had three, you know, um, what everyone would love to call stillbirths, or you know, but she had DNCs, which are basically abortions. But they were medical. So anyway, and that's something that Americans don't have anymore. Some states do. We're back to 1970s. 1970s, there were certain states, New York State, you could get an abortion. A few other states you could get an abortion, but there were a lot of other states you couldn't. And that's basically, I mean, abortions were easily gotten up until around 1910, until the modern, present medical entity showed up, right? And because most women's medicine was taken care of by women, you know, um, and so and mostly black women, right? So white guys realized that they could make money at it, so they made it illegal for women to practice medicine, and so they made it illegal to have abortions, right? And so that's what got us to today, right? And then Roe occurred, and when Roe occurred, I had a lot of, I went to Columbia and Cornell law schools just for the fun of it, right? I was sent there by my boss, Ralph Nader. I was working for NYPIRG, New York Public Interest Research Group, and I was all about air quality and water quality. And I was trying to move forward the idea of alternative technologies, because I had been a Tesla file for at least 15 years. My mentor of the electrical EMF, Grandpa Stoll, who was Nikola Tesla's bench electrician, and the first electrician, to get a license in the world was Grandpa Stoll. He started the IBEW and IATSE and NABITH, and so he was definitely wired in, to use a pun, and he was my mentor. And his son, Mike, was like more my father than my father, right? And so they were the guys who, from about age 9 until the age of 27-ish, what happened was Grandpa Stoll died when I was 25, and Mike had an accident when I was almost 30, maybe 32, maybe. And that was it for him. I mean, he was an energetic guy, jumping up around. I mean, I wish he was 80 and he was running around going up and down ladders, and that's what happened to him. He touched and he used to test like this. I had my wiggy, and he would test like this, and he hit a 440 line, so he got 800 volts across his fingers, and it shot him off the ladder, and he smashed into a kitchen cabinet and a pile of 2x4s, and that was the end of, he broke like a teacup. And about a year later, he was dead. And so, and that was the beginning of the 50 people who I love dearly who died, right? Actually, it started with Grandpa. So, from the time I was 25 until I was 32, 50 people in my life died, right? And so, when people talk about sorrow, unless you're in a war zone, the folks in the Ukraine, they know what death is. People who are in Russia who are losing children, they know what death is. The kids who are putting on, the front line, they know what death is. And, people don't understand that this whole thing is a, choreographed soap opera for planetary dominance. Go watch David Icke, go watch Dark Journalists, go watch Joseph P. Farrell, go watch Catherine Austin Fitz, go watch Chris Hedges, and they will give you a good, Noam Chomsky. Go listening to alternative radio coming out of Boulder, um, by David Unbansian, and all of those folks you can find on the internet. They all have websites and do podcasts and YouTubes and on alternative radio all over the place. It's not like you can't get the information, but the way information is focused, the way, the internet was supposed to be the World Wide Web. The guy who invented it saw it as a vehicle so everyone could talk to each other, right? Well, that's right. Until platforms, financial platforms were brought online, like Facebook and YouTube and Google and Microsoft and et al. And all those things, you could see that they were brought online because the first 10 years that they were there, they weren't making money, but tons of people were pouring cash in because they realized that it was like real estate. You could control because people, the way the World Wide Web has been throttled is that it runs through these platforms that have algorithms running it. And so people, why do only a handful of people? Why is no one watching right now? Right? Why shouldn't 1,000 people be watching this right now? Right? Why? Because the algorithm that YouTube runs, doesn't get rid of me. It just puts me on, down on the farm, which is fine because, shamanically, I basically drop a pebble into the World Wide Web and that goes out, right? And, there's about, 1,700, what I would call the cadre, people who kind of watch me. They haven't subscribed, but they should do so. So come on, before I go any further, it's 12 minutes and 12 seconds. I love when that happens. Into the program here. So everybody who, and most of you guys who watch this don't watch this live. The people who watch it live are ones who want to comment on the live chat. That's what this is. It's supposed to be a communication of ideas. And there are really only a handful of people who really um, do that and actually put something on, like, other than, hey, how you doing? Like, actually comment how they feel, and yesterday, I don't know if you've noticed, I was kind of in a funk because I'm an empathetic person. I feel everything. That's one of my skill sets, right? I can, when I read people, I can read your palm, I can read a lot of things about you, but I mostly, look, when I say, here, hold up your hand like that and show me your palm, the hand you write with. So anybody who wants your palm read, um, send it to me to the email, right? The dudeawake42 at Gmail. A photograph of their hand from here to about here, right? Get all of it in, right? About like that, or like that. Right? And I can zoom in, look at it, and the other side too, both sides, right? And basically, what that is, it gives me. There are about 1,800 specific points in one's palm or one's hand that you could look at, right? Now, I only look at 8 because basically I look at your hand like you're Mr. Potato Head. And if you've ever had that toy, there are 5 noses, ears, eyes, mouths for Mr. Potato Head, not cheese stick, right? And there are 8 points that I look at, right? And so, and one of them is how honest you are, right? This is, if your hand is like that, you cannot lie. You are honest as day is long. And depending on how, and if your thumb is all the way there, you are like a sociopath, basically. Around here, that's a good thing. That's a diplomat. That's someone who doesn't spill the beans about, people talk to me because I don't tell anybody else what somebody told me, right? Well, I'm a diplomat. Now I'm a school diplomat because my hand is like that. Not like this, but about like that. I am honest. I can't lie, but I can be diplomatic, you know. I don't have to say things. I'm very, before what comes out my mouth, I've already, I got it on a tape loop coming out, right? Because when I got murdered by a nun in first grade, and she broke my jaw and crushed my esophagus and my voice box, and broke the little stirrup in my ear so I couldn't hear most things, and broke the orbit in my eye so I couldn't see out of this eye. Hey, my my jaw was wired shut for almost a year, and I wore this cast on my head for about a year. Looked like a Astro Boy, and I was living with Maryknoll nuns and priests at a sanctuary. Not a seminary, a sanctuary, right? A place of scholarly discourse and thought and prayer and service. So for almost 2.5 years, I lived with those guys. And once my jaw could work, and once, I had a few operations on that, still couldn't talk, right? I could talk and I stuttered like unbelievable. And I couldn't really hear out of this ear or see out of this eye. I mean, I could, but in a very strange way. But luckily, I was in this place. My one of my mentors, Cardinal Cushing, stuck me there, and because he felt guilty about a Catholic nun killing me, especially since she was a rat line Nazi. And I don't know if any of you guys ever heard about the rat line, but uh, the Holy See, the Vatican, help logistically get about 1 million hard, not just Fritz, who was in the army, out of no high level sociopathic, you know. And in the United States, we had a deal with the Nazis where we brought in intellectuals and scientists and spies. It was called Operation Paperclip, right? And it said, "Oh, we brought in about 700." No, we brought in 70,000. I mean, our whole intelligence, the whole National Security Act of 1947 was straight up Hail Hydra. And if you go watch go watch Stan Lee's, you know, Marvel comics and his films. That's so, Fantastic Four, X-Men, Captain America, you name it, what he did. He basically was giving a straight up, this is what's going on in the world and in America. This is what's happening to your country, kids, right? So go and look at it. You can go, those first three Captain American movies are very, very straight up. Go watch Gangs of New York. That describes the political structure we still have today. And what's interesting is um, Donald Trump grew up in Queens. His father was a developer in Queens, and his father was a member of the KKK, straight up as American as apple pie, right? And he was a Democrat. And basically, all the Democrats, Democratic Party was like the Southern Blue Dogs. They were the Jim Crow cats, right? And the Republicans, they kind of were the party of Lincoln. They were the liberals. People like Nelson Rockefeller and that crew. They were the liberal neocons, right? And the George H. Bushes and Dick Cheneys and Rumsfelds, they were the um, fascist, globalist, um, basically free enterprise. And free enterprise is free for you, but not for anybody else, right? Or them and nobody else, right? They are part of what is called the high table, right? The hidden hand. Hail Hydra. So, and that's why, especially the second and third movie of Captain America are really, before they start getting into the vigilantes of justice, and so it's a very interesting, because Hail Hydra is not just in the United States, or the kids who are down in the South Pole, Antarctica, or the other kids who are up on the moon and Mars. They've been out in space for a long time. There's this thing called Solar Warden. Go take that out. Go look at David. What's his name? And his buddy. Oh, again, this is hard to see. What are you saying here? Hey, Bob. I can't see who it is, but whoever it is, hello. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob, me, your griot telling you a story. And here it is towards the end of October, and we've had a lot of surprises, and I would say somewhere before the elections, this guy, he's so my thread, the stuff that people send me that are, basically, um,
we'll know that a Jesus movement is upon us when people start coming for the sake of Jesus. And we'll know that a Jesus movement is upon us when we're more aware of Jesus than the movement.
Yep.
There's only salvation in Jesus. October 26, 2022. Guys, you can see the image here, and it's talking about what's going on overseas. Now, we've got a lot
It's the
going
Russian
on around the
ICBM
planet.
being
Everything
tested.
seems to be coming to a head at the same time, whether it's the Mississippi River running dry, barges are stranding, no shipment of goods there, to the drought in the west, to storms, to Florida getting devastated with Hurricane Ian, to the way the politicians are playing this. And again, we are less than 2 weeks out from the midterm elections. Something will happen either between now and then or before the inauguration, and so that power transfer does not happen. Now, more than likely, it would be easier to do it earlier, before the votes come in at all, right? You understand why? But what you're looking at here is the newest article that's over on Rumble. I want to preserve this platform. We use it for a lot of things, but this particular subject is not very popular. Mainstream is not reporting it at all. But I'll just tell you, the subtitle is Moscow's Last Warning to the Ukraine in the West. Okay? And they know who the main player in the West is. You'll see that in the video. They know exactly who it is, and they named it. Matter of fact, they said that Ukraine is no longer a nation. It's now a state of the U.S., and that's something we've said the entire time. But again, guys, that will be on Rumble. There's other updates that we will have on YouTube, a lot of them. But this one, go to the Rumble channel. I'll link it below. There'll also be a link to these articles. It's a heads up, guys. Be safe.
So, that's kind of an October surprise. Nuclear war, and Russia is going to
have to address the reset of our defense and security for this new age at the most difficult time you can imagine for public finances.
Rishi Sunak is less than 24 hours into his new role as Prime Minister, and he has a lot on his plate. The subject of Britain's defence will be a big issue to manage. Joining us now is Sir Richard Barrons, the former commander of the UK's Joint Forces Command. Good morning to you, Richard.
Good morning.
What happened? My thumb hit the screen.
An early question, which may come as soon as next week when we get this budget statement, if it is indeed next week, will be Liz Truss made some very big spending commitments on defence. The idea of raising the defence spend to 3% of GDP, more than 2% as it is currently at the moment, in light of what's gone on in Ukraine. In your view, is it essential for Rishi Sunak, essential for the defence of the realm, to increase spending that way?
I think it's essential that everybody in the UK, every citizen, recognises that our defence and security is now in a wholly different place from that which we've inhabited for 30 rather comfortable years. We are back in an era of great power confrontation, and the war in Ukraine is an illustration what that can feel like. And we're also in an era where the digital age is changing how war is fought and nations confront each other. And our armed forces are at the bottom of a trajectory of post-Cold War decline in numbers and readiness and people, just as we've walked into this major change in global affairs. So we should be absolutely clear.
So, they want to spend a lot of money. Lockheed, Grumman, Boeing, Raytheon are all like, and that goes for everybody else, guys in France and Germany and England and Sweden and in Russia. But see, again, this is a global movement, not, and it's not, East against West, America against Russia and China. No, no. There are power structures in every country that are transnational, right? And what is more to the effect of what's going on is the essence of what the problem with the human is, right? And why, our whole cultural, social, spiritual, religious, economic dynamic is based on the golden rule. It allegedly is, treat somebody else like you want to be treated, right? That is unconditional love. But what's really going on, who has the gold rules? And that's conditional love, right? You do what I say, I'll give you some of this gold. Otherwise, I'm going to kill you, right? And you can see that happening in the Ukraine. Russia saw the Ukraine as theirs, right? And it had been for, within their sphere of influence since the Tsar's time, since the Khazarian nation. But if they only looked at their history and look at who the Khazarian mob was, they would have thought twice about going after the Ukrainians. I lived in Harlem, and along Second Avenue up into Harlem, every 3 blocks was a different nationality, right? And not just Ukrainians, but every type of Ukrainians. There were about 6 different flavors of Ukrainians. There were about 10 different flavors of Russians. There were about 40 different flavors of Chinese, right? And same with Caribbean and Hispanic and African, and these all had folk from those places in Harlem. I can't pronounce it. See, being my esophagus, see, I breathe in a different way than you guys do, right? I push air through my voice box in a different way than you do. So diaspores. So I have to do stuff like that to say a word, right? And I have to roll the tape back in my skull to a place where I can see that word, and then I can say diasporus, because when I was a little peanut of a kid, I had dyslexia, HAD, AAD, ABCD, EFG, you name it, I had it. And that was the blessing of me getting murdered by that nun and then being placed into a sanctuary where I felt safe and secure. And I had, 40 men and women who weren't psychodrama, Holy Roman Empire folk. These were Marinals. They were all about service, love, unconditional, and scholarliness. So they all had these disciplines, So I had a guy who was an audiologist, about my hearing, a speech therapist about my speech, an ophthalmologist, a breath scientist, So I had all these guys in one place. It was like, oh, goody, goody. We have this guy as our little lab rat. And they spent 2.5 years doing things, like learning disabilities, right? That wasn't even on. Everyone who in teaching and psychology who was at least somewhat addressed to how people learn knew about dyslexia, because a French doctor, basically found one of the French princes had it, and he's the guy who named it dyslexia, right? A double vision of thought is what dyslexia is. And so actually, it's not only a double vision, it's a reversed double vision. So you see two separate things and it's reversed. And so there was a priest, a brother, really. I never call these guys priests or nuns. I call them brothers and sisters. So was a brother there who he was all about dyslexia, and his whole thing was it wasn't a disability; it was actually a great opportunity because you can see things in two separate ways at the same time, right? And you can also see them in reverse. So as an electrician, a guy who used to work with circuits and apparatus, when you're looking at a machine, it's actually when you're looking into it, you're actually seeing it reverse. I mean, it's actually working the other way than what you're seeing, right? And so my having dyslexia, like when I worked for Xerox, it was like the poor guys who were Xerox, representatives. That's what they call them, service folk. They wore black pants, white shirt, black tie. I mean, like electrical engineers, but they weren't. And shine shoes. Me, I kind of looked like me, like homeless guy. But I would just put my hand on the machine. I closed my eyes, and I could feel what was wrong with it. Right, and then I'd open up the little door and I would see into it and I would see it in stereophonic duality and reversed. So I could, then I would run the machine. I would put a little block or something in because when you had that little door open, the machine wouldn't work. But there was a little switch there that when the door was closed, it was closed, and so the machine would work. I would just stick a little wad of paper or a piece of wood into that little thing, and then the machine would work. And then I'd hit run, and I would watch it work, and I could, know what was exactly wrong with the machine, right? And so I would, you know, and I would be sent not to fix it per se, but to tell the guy wearing the black pants, white shirt, black tie what to do because these guys would take a Xerox machine apart. And that toner, if that ever got loose, because it was like baby dust, baby, it was fine. It was like, and it's super toxic. And if it got on you, it left black smudge like you could never get off, right? And so they'd be in an office, and the toner bag would get broken, and it would go everywhere in the office, and those nice walls and paintings and slip covers of furniture ruined. And so I would be sent with a good service guy who would listen to me, and I would go, "That's what's wrong. That right there. Don't touch anything else. Just that." So he would go get the part, put it in instead of taking 20 hours. But at Xerox, the maintenance guys couldn't care less. They were getting paid by the hour. But different shops had different aspects. So Grandpa's Xerox shop was all about making service calls happy for the client, not a misery, right? So and not getting sued. And so and that's how it should be worldwide. But that's not how the corporate structure works. Right now, we are economically probably in the worst place we've had been, probably back to the dark ages. It's like really, you really want to go this, you want to go this way. Okay. Where the rich are getting unbelievably rich and everyone else is kind of, and especially, and so they're putting the screws on Africa, the one country that has a real future. They're doing their best to kill all the young people because the old farts don't want those kids around because those kids are semi-educated, semi-technically adroit, aren't going to stand up for bullshit anymore like their parents and grandparents and great grandparents and back, for 400 years. They're ready for a change, and that's where change is going to happen globally, right? If I was young man, I would go to Africa, right? So, and I have some friends who I've said, you should go to Africa, and they have, and I haven't really heard anything from them, but they're heading back soon, so I'll get a report. So I have all these people who I've worked for, or worked with, or been their mentor, for the last 35, 40 years, and so I have they're my Padawans, right? You guys who make comments, you are the cadre, but and there are adepts, the 100 or so of you who've gotten a hold of me. Get a hold of me at dudewake42 at gmail, dudewake42 at gmail, and let's talk. And so they're the people who do. So there are about 100 folk, and those 100 folk, were all folk who had serious frigging issues, and they were desperate enough to they stumbled upon me, like miraculously, either through going to John's, just ending up for some reason on John's channel or finding me. But the algorithm definitely keeps me on the down low. And and it's starting to keep John on the down low too, because he is, I'm rubbing off on him, and he mostly talks about God and Jesus, which is a good thing to talk about. Now, he, again, I call him the canary in the coal mine. So he is actualizing his connection to God and Jesus. At the same time, he's having the thing that he's had problems with still affect him, right? So you seeing him doing this, and he's a Libra, so he's doing this all the time. So, and that's what's brilliant about John. He is a demonstrator model of the humans' inability at this moment to deal with what's right in front of them. But they're trying, and John is really trying, and that's why I'm not giving up on him, because he is trying. And he's not doing. Keep saying, John, just do. Stop trying. Do, and he'll get there. I'm pretty sure. I'm still there. I'm still praying for him. I'm still, And you guys used to go, "You're so patient." No, I'm actually an impatient guy, but I am conscious, aware I am. And that is the two little mantras that I'm trying to teach you guys out there. That a big breath in, pull all that prana in your nose, fill your lungs, fill all that life-giving prana, and you expel all the negativity. Right, you breathe in, and to breathe this in. Breathe this deep in. You have to be consciously aware of only your breath, and then you breathe out the mantra, consciously aware I am, consciously aware I am, consciously aware I am. Oh, until you expel everything, and then you breathe it in. Consciously aware I am, consciously aware I am, consciously aware I am. Oh. And go through the frequencies, clear yourself out. And what are you supposed to be consciously aware I am of, right? You should be consciously aware of your 20. What is your 20? You're driving a tractor trailer, over the CB comes your buddy. He says, "Hey, buddy, where are you? What's your 20? And what does that mean in CB talk? It means, where are you exactly at this moment? And usually you're on the interstate. I'm on this interstate, and you say, "Oh, that's mile marker, da 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 da," right? And so that's your 20. You're on this interstate, and there's your mile marker. So that guy knows exactly where you are, right? Before GPS, that was how people got to know where they were, right? What's your 20, right? And so you're consciously aware that if you're like driving along, you know what interstate you're on, and you're looking at that. Oh, there it is. I'm at mile marker, right? So you're consciously aware of your 20. And what that means in your life is you are consciously aware of where you're at, what you're doing, what you're interacting with. And people who experience deja vu, deja vu isn't like this, like lightning bolt, even though it's like deja vu is lightning understanding, basically. And that's what a Gestalt is, and that's in German. And what it is that if you're really sensitive to deja vu, you are it's like you're in a zone. And once you kind of go through that event horizon, you're going, uh-oh, something's going on here. And then your 20 is where you should be stepping. If you're really aware of your 20, oh, there's my 20. I'm going to step right on it. I'm right on time. It's perfect timing. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. This amazing thing's going to happen, right? But if you're not aware, if you're not consciously aware, I am, you'll step either before it or after it, and then you're out of the Venn diagram of or the Zen diagram of knowing what you're supposed to be doing. You're consciously aware I am. So, but if you are using that as your mantra, consciously I am, consciously aware I am, consciously aware I am, consciously aware I am, that puts you in the harmonic state of being aware, right? And so the other mantra is consciously intent I am, consciously intent I am, consciously intent I am. Oh, 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 oh. And consciously intent is doing your best. Not trying, doing. Not wishing, doing. Not praying that God will do it for you, doing. That's what you're here to do. To do your best. Because you are the reflection of God's unconditional love, right? You are the reflection. When the burning bush was talking to Moses, and Moses said, "So why should I do what you want?" You know, what do you want, Moses? What's your name? Because back in the day, when you knew somebody's name, you knew everything about them. So, the burning bush said, it didn't say, "I am who I am." Only Popeye says that. What the burning bush said was, "I am a work in progress. And you are, humanity, Homo sapien sapien, all our relations on the school bus of this planet are basically my reflection." And so, in the Old Testament, when God was a pretty bad dude, and messing people up, turning them into salt, and flooding them and drowning them and doing all kinds of nasty stuff to them, not like a loving father would do. Basically, the burning bush was just reflecting our sociopathic instincts, right? And they're not even instincts; they are reflections of our out of off the hook representation of our chemical emotions. And that's why you should never believe that you are that bag of water that is your body, because that is just simply an avatar. Why we left the Garden of Eden was because everything was great, but we weren't going anywhere. We weren't accomplishing it. We weren't doing anything. We weren't being anything. We weren't serving love's co-creation. We were in the warm up cage, right? And so we were, given free will, or the opportunity to experience free will, and all of the powers that should be were aware of everything was happening. So to be stuck with the idea that we had this original sin, no, that was part of the plan. Us eating that apple, I mean, it's right there. Oh, you can eat anything but that apple. Come on. You think kids won't go after that apple? Of course they will. By saying that, I mean, they could have said nothing and we wouldn't have eaten that apple, right? They could have kept that apple way, way high up on the tree, right? And oh, look, that's pretty, but I can't get to it. But there's this one over here that's just as nice, and boy, that tastes good. And so, but no, we were understood to eat that apple, so we would then have free will, that we would then get this body, right? And you're going to have to work, and you're going to feel pain at the birth of children, girlfriend. So there was no sin. And Jesus's good news was the fact that we weren't sinners. We were just unconscious. Wake up, moron! So here we are. How many minutes into this are we? 44 and 44 seconds. So let's see if I can, if this does better. Because on my laptop, it's a black background with gray, really teeny weeny letters. It's like, give me a break. Can't see squat. Hit that. Your channel. Here I am. Whoops. Live. Here I am. Whoops. Live. Here I am. Whoops. Live. Yep, yep. Whoops. Live. Yep, yep. It's me, Sandra. Hey, Sandra. It's me, Sandra. Hey, Sandra. Okay, enough of that. Enough of that. Enough. Okay, so I got it. So I can see on my phone. It's a white background with black letters. I can read that. Even through my gooky eyes. I have chips eyes. S. No, is it CHIPGA and Hungarian? That means iGook or iGook, and that's what I got. After getting my cataracts taken out so I can see really clear, like really sharper ever, but I still got gook. So from my nose to about 5 feet, it's gooky. When I look out, it's not gooky, but close up where I read. And so, having the background of white and black letters, I can read that, right? It's not gooky. When I read books and it's white paper and black things, I got my nice photonic reading lantern on. It's all good. So, if you listen to the news, so I kind of listen to NPR. And that's propaganda, because they're constantly going on. And this show is brought. If you watch, public PBS news on TV, the first 5 minutes is advertisements. Exxon and Pfizer and this and that, and come on, guys, give me a break. So let's see. Minister of American programs. It was the deep state.
Officials within the U.S. government that would always use their leverage in the federal bureaucracy to oppose change, either because the deep staters were wedded to ill-advised policies of the past, or because they sought to protect their own power, status, salary, and pensions. The menace of the deep state was an idea particularly propagated by backers of President Donald Trump. Our guest, David Rothkopf, says if there is a deep state, we should probably be thanking rather than condemning it.
This guy, David,
his new book recounts many instances during the Trump administration when veteran government officials quietly intervened to undermine some of Trump's most troubling orders and policy initiatives. Not because they threatened the officials' personal interests, but because they were illegal, unworkable, immoral, or against the country's interests. David Rothkopf is a former editor of Foreign Policy magazine who worked on international trade policy in the Clinton administration. He's written several previous books. He's now a columnist for The Daily Beast and host of the podcast Deep State Radio. His new book is American Resistance, the inside story of how the deep state saved the nation. David Rothkopf, welcome to Fresh Air.
It's a pleasure to be here.
This idea of the deep state was popularized by Steve Bannon, among others. The guy who was a big backer of Trump and then went into the White House.
So that right there is enough to cause the Civil War. Anyone listening to that is going, listen, Steve Bannon was right. Donald Trump is right. I mean, they're getting, and that's exactly what happened in the 1840s to the Civil War. People were being riled up. People in Boston and New York, they didn't care about slavery. They had slaves, In Virginia, they had slaves, We're still slaves. We are a slave nation, right? There are states where, the minimum wage is still $6.50. No. Anyway, so you have to go deeper than that. You have to go deeper than almost anything that's in the media because it's all propaganda, period. There are people who, want to talk to me and I just talk to them because they make me laugh, because they are we're liberal and we believe this and this is what's true. And if you don't believe we're liberal, we're liberals. And we're not progressives. No, we're not those commies. We're liberals. And we believe in free thought, but only our free thought. You know what a liberal is? Someone who feels guilty about being racist, right? And what's truly interesting is that the Republicans, for a good 100, since the Civil War, have been the liberals, not the Democrats. The Democrats were the blue dog, KKK guys, the guys who were keeping, trying to keep, black folk in their place. And see, and when things go down, when Jim Crow was rolled out by Woodrow Wilson, all those big things of Civil War heroes, those statues, they weren't done after Civil War. No, they were done by after around Woodrow Wilson's time, between the 98 and 1910. And that's when the Ku Klux Klan really took off, and it was a business plan more than anything else. And by forcing Jim Crow, what it did was it manifested when black folk were at a point when they had experienced, what would you call it, faux freedom, where they kind of could get educated, where there were colleges and schools for black folk, where there was, and black folk were being pushed to be in neighborhoods all by themselves, where they couldn't go drink the water fountain in the supermarket, so they, had their own stores and grew their own food and had their own newspapers and had their own radio stations and had their own, you name it. And by 1965, why the Voting Act came through is because LBJ from Texas, biggest racist, and he owned all the TV and radio stations in Texas, right? And a good portion of the newspapers. And he came from poor tenement farmers, right? And he was one of the boys that were brought to DC with FDR. And FDR was no saint, FDR was the guy who allowed the Japanese to be put in concentration camps because he needed California to go for him. And there was a politician in California said, I guarantee California will go your way. You just have to okay and not get in my way when I basically pull the rug out underneath, 750,000 Japanese folk, right? And I'm going to take all their property and I'll be the richest man in California. And that's what that was all about. And when you really look at history on about what it's all about, it's usually about money and power, right? Not about ideology. This whole thing about cancel culture, give me a break. No, it's about, power. Look at all the states now, gerrymandering everything. And we'll see how that works out for them. I mean, because the carrot heading of, the negging of the Republican Party is just to destroy the Republican Party because they were the adults in the room. The Democrats never were, right? And so you're going to have this two group of sociopaths, as sociopath A and sociopath B, and I coin it as the neo insane clown party. There was an interesting band. I don't know if they're still around, but in the 90s and early O's, they had a rambunctious following, insane clown party. And so, and I call, George W. and Dick Cheney and Mr. Rumsfeld and that whole neocon crew as neo insane clown party, right? They're not Republicans. And what Carrot Head is, he's not even that, And so you have to realize that there is this Hail Hydra hidden hand behind all of this. The war in Ukraine, the war, China, if China's as smart as, China was given the position of what America became after the Revolutionary War, meaning the English didn't want to be George didn't want to keep paying the bills of the childish, spoiled brats of America. No, but he couldn't just leave. He couldn't do that. Geopolitically, he couldn't do that. So he fermented a revolution. He just kind of like he's put tax on tea. Nobody drank tea, but pretty much the founding fathers, who were the white, rich, racist slave owner, guys who had a great, nice empire, a corrupt little business plan going on, making millions by, basically killing all the Indians, taking all their land for free. Thank you, Mr. Pope, for, the Vatican gave them a go ahead and do this, before 1492 when the Spanish and the Portuguese were heading out, going to conquer things. The Pope said, "Hey, we're all white and Christian. Anybody who's white and Christian," and they were having, the wars, in the Mid East, and so we can take anybody's stuff as long as they got dark skin and aren't Christians. If they're Christian, then they're our cousins, and we have to treat them a little nicer, but we can still kill them. But if they're not, those heathen indigenous people, we can kill them all and enslave them. They're just, it's like cogs in a machine. You go for it, kids. And that's what America was based on. That was their business plan. Washington, Jefferson, Adams, all those founding fathers had some business plan where they were getting over on taking advantage of the indigenous people and the folk and the slave folk. And not all the slaves were black. A good third of the slaves, like the Irish immigrants, they were slaves too. Indentured servants. They were worse. The blacks were at least property. You don't drive your tractor into a concrete wall. But Irish, they were cogs in a machine. You just wear them out, and there's more coming off the boat. So that's what happened to China. Nixon and Kissinger went there and just hooked them into that. And we handed over, I mean, by the time 72 came around, the economics had changed. And manufacturing crap in America wasn't a profit motif, but handing it to the Chinese so we could then, ship it back to America and sell it at Walmart's. That politically was a genius idea because it gave all those poor people, you know, it was getting to the point in 1970 to buy a Sunbeam, um, you know, mixer cost, $30. But sell China patent rights to that Sunbeam mixer and the trademark of that name and have them make it in China, and then and it was cheaper to have it made there, and they have no resources. They had to go get the resources, buy all our garbage, all our tin cans and shit, and that's exactly what Japan did. That's what we did to Japan before World War One, right? Between Civil War and World War One, that's what we did to Japan. Japan became this big industrial, amazing thing, and I mean, Japan was such an amazing military industrial complex that they kicked Russia's ass in World War One, just sank their navy. And I hope Russia and China are remembering that because Japan probably has the best quality navy on the planet. They're defensive, they're not going out looking for empires. They don't have to. They can sell Toyotas. So, and they're robots, and they're not worrying that they're old people are getting older and the young people, there are not too many of them because they're replacing everybody with a robot, right? Their robot AI technology is 20 years ahead of anybody else. So these are all realities that no one's talking about, you know. Go look at robots. Our robots, America's, coming out of, what's the place that shit's coming out of? Let's talk to, I haven't talked to what's his name in a long time. Dr. Tool. Mm-mm. Hmm. Oh, there he is. Let's see. Do, 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 do.
Your call has been forwarded.
Well, he didn't answer the phone, so he's not there. So Dr. Tool is a guy who works with robots, right? And so he's always my go-to guy. So John Hopkins, who else? There are a couple other entities that are robot, on the top of the robot chain here, Stanford, and their robots look like refrigerators with legs. It's or like Robbie the robot from Forbidden Planet. But the robots in Japan, man, look like a human being, have hands that can do this. The robots we have can kill people and can turn out a hubcap, but other than that, they're really not there. The robots in Japan are designed to take care of old folk, like so the old folk can see them and like that robot. It's an attractive robot. You know, it can have sex with that robot if it wants to, and a robot will pleasure them in the most nicest of ways. And that robot looks just like a human being, can talk to it, has all the working parts, and we're not even close. So I mean, our artificial intelligence can't even recognize black people. That's how racist our programming is. Ow. So 1 hour and 1 minute and 1 second. I love it when it does that. Uh, so here we are, October surprise. You know, if you're living in a large city, don't be surprised if you wake up to a mushroom cloud, right? But and right now, astronomically, if you go look at Thor, he's my Thor and uh, Oppenheimer Ranch are my two go-to guys for the weather, right? And Thor was going on about things are going conjunction and retro this and retro that, and so pretty much things are going to be in a bad state up until Christmas time or thereabouts. And there from then on, it gets better and better. So if we can survive until past Thanksgiving, we can probably make it through. But from now until Thanksgiving could be a problem. And especially for all you fixed folk, Capricorn, Aquarian, who else? All the fixed signs are going to have a bad time. So that's kind of why I'm staying out in the woods because I don't have to deal with anything except squirrels and falling leaves and stuff like that. And my neighbors, dogs, they are, he's got packs of dogs. He's got too many dogs, and there's when you can see a dog's ribs, it's not getting fed, and so and there's only two dogs that you can't see, and they're the bullies. They're the ones who pick on the two smaller ones, so the two smallers aren't getting anything. So that's why those dogs have been coming over and going through all my stuff, trying to find something to eat. They realize, oh wow, he's got all this stuff just hanging out. Let's go through it. Maybe we can find, and they can, but they've eaten pretty much everything I've got that I forgot that because I have no refrigeration. So I make something, I put it in a jar, I put it out of the sun, I put it in a coolish spot. It's like what people did back in the old days, and that's kind of how I'm living because I'm in a place where no matter what happened, but I would still be able to survive, right? My water still would, I'd still have water. My toilet would still flush. I still would have some electricity because I have photocells and batteries, and you know, so I prepared for that. And but I do have electricity. I do have a more, you know, what would you call it? Status quo well. But I have another well that's a artesian well that kind of gurgles up. I have a spring and I catch water. So I have four different, waters that, and they're all coming from pretty much the same place. So, and that place is really, really good. I picked this spot basically because of the water, because I'm on top of a mountain range in a holler of the mountain range at the top. So the water kind of comes to me first and gets filtered out. There are no industrial things that are putting crap in the air for a good 100 miles from me. There are no farms spraying crap on the ground that goes into my water table. That, the closest place that's doing that is 30 miles from me, and it's about 1,800 feet below me. Right. So that's why I picked this place. Yes, it's a little bit out. And another reason, I'm 50 miles the closest Walmart's. I thought the rich people couldn't stand that. And they can't, because they, between 2020 and now, they've come and bought up everything and bulldozed every top of the mountain and blah blah blah. Again, I'm in a place where they can't do that, not right in what affects my water table. But 5 miles over there and 6 miles over there and just down the road over there, down from me, yeah, they're doing that. And they zip around, and they come flying through here like it was their motocross. But their attention span is so short that they you know can't deal with it. So I'm basically here alone, which is fine. You know. Just how I like it. So, and so this one guy, he wants to have, like country boy, have all these dogs. And so he bought a bitch and a guy dog, and they just kept knocking up puppies. And he thought he could, like, sell them, and not really. So he kind of tried to give them away, and and so he goes, "Oh, you need a dog." I said, "No, I don't. You just come down and talk to me." So they do. So they come and ate all those stuff that I had around that I had no idea that I had kept leaving around. But I found it all, and what they would do is grab it, run away with it up to his driveway, and eat it, and leave all the wrappers, all the bags, all the plastic containers up there on his driveway. And he is anal retentive, and it drives him nuts. And he knows he can't. It's his dogs doing it, and so he screams at them, and the dogs kind of look at him. Yeah, so what? So the dogs have come down, and pretty much since they showed up a year ago, I don't scream at them, I don't yell at them, I don't try to hit them with anything. And so so I sit down in a chair, and half the time, if I'm out on my front lawn, I'm sitting in a lawn chair, and they come by, and no one gives them any real attention. So I do. Like, I'm behind the ears, I pat them on the stomach, and if it's sunny, they all lie around me in the sun. And one or two will get up. The two little ones can easily just bounce into my lap and then want to go to sleep in my arms. And so these dogs like me, right? And whatever, you know, I didn't go hunting. Once I realized that what they were doing, I didn't, I realized that he wasn't feeding them. So if my larder that I didn't even know exist could feed them, it's okay. And I looked for the shit. I couldn't find it. I put up doors so they couldn't get at it. They just bounced over them. So it's like, I did my best. The guy doesn't do his best. He could cage them in. He could get collars. But he doesn't, right? And so they don't really bother me. They don't bark at me. But the other two people way up the road, where they have Airbnbs and Bs, um, those dogs will go up there and growl at the guests, and that's bad for those people's business. So they call the police. So he's always, anyway. And that's what, everything is a microcosm of everything else. What's going on in my forest is what's going on in Ukraine, except without the artillery and cruise missiles. And I do what Putin and the stand-up comedian should do, and that is stop the war. They themselves, but see, they are reading a script. Putin is addicted to the money that the hidden hand gives him. And the hidden hand gave him the script to do what he did with Russia for the last 30 years. Meaning, as soon as he became president, Russia used to have 60% of their GDP was manufacturing, right? And basically, once we became, they became part of the G20, blah blah blah, and became, the World Trade Organization, blah blah blah, just like China. They got addicted because they have the oil, the gas, the fertilizer, and every mineral known to man closest to Europe. So they went from manufacturing of ballast raw. If you want to make money, you turn the raw materials you have into high value products, sell the high product values. Now, Russia didn't do that. They allowed the Koch brothers and Dick Cheney to take their oil industry, the Stalinist um, oil industry that was built by Mr. Arm& Hammer and the Koch brothers' grandpa, and that's where they got the technology and money to do what they do. And and Russia, Joe Stalin was addicted to Mr. Arm& Hammer and Mr. Koch, because he was the only money that Joe Boy was getting was from the same thing. But once World War II came, we gave them some of our defunct factories so they could manufacture weapons, and that's why we went into a Cold War, because you have to realize that Marx and Engels, who were the authors of communism through the economic text of Das Kapital, were brought to England by Mr. Rothschild, who paid off the French to let him out of jail, and out of Germany to let him out of jail, and bring them to England and put them in a really nice house till the day they died. He paid all their bills, and they wrote that because communism was the loyal opposition of the economic system of Mr. Rothschild, world domination. Mr. Globaloni, right? That's Mr. Rothschild. But Mr. Rothschild is just he's just the poster boy of Hail Hydra, and Hail Hydra has been around, since Babylon, right? And it pops up every time. One of the time, Albert Pike, who is the big daddy of the Illuminati, and the Scottish Rite. And these guys are just poster boys. They aren't the entity itself. And that's why if you go back and just kind of pick through history, you can see it comes. Who said history is like a bad meal, causing agita, repeating sour every time it returns. And that's where we're at a real sour point right now. Because these guys are desperate, because we have left the Piscean age. We're totally in the Aquarian age. And very soon, by 2050, we will either have, not really, we will be in a place which will be more like Star Trek. And that's why Gene Roddenberry put that show on. He understood this. He knew this. All of this stuff had been foretold, back in Babylon. And it's if you're a student of any of this esoteric and occult, and what are those two? Oh, the devil worship? No. It is the understanding of the hidden experience, hidden knowledge, right? And so that's where we're at, right? Here it is, October. Wake up to, you can do one of two things. You can either wake up one morning to the rumbling, and you look out the window, a big mushroom cloud, and you'll either be incinerated by the flash, and then the broken glass cutting you up like bologna, or you'll be 60 miles away, and if you don't look out the window and get hit by the flash, you'll be fine, except you'll be radiated. That gamma radiation will still be hitting you because that bomb detonated about 3,000 feet up in the air, so it can radiate, and so unless you're in your basement when the bomb goes off, you can either be incinerated by the flash of light and that, and if it doesn't incinerate you, it'll give you one heck of a sunburn, and if you're looking at it, you'll be blind. And the radiation will be if you were out to get you could if you get a really serious suntan, um, you know, then you're out and exposed to get some serious, gamma radiation exposure. And if you're looking at it, you're going to be blind. Your thyroid is going to be fucked, immediately. And if you're wearing any kind of modern clothes that are made from any kind of polyester, that stuff's going to melt on your skin. Not a, third degree, sunburn and plastic burnt to your skin, right? And you're still alive. You would wish you were, if you had a gun, you'd probably eat it, right? So I'm in a place where, unless they detonate one, oh, it's Al. We need to drop a hydrogen bomb on Al. Basically, you know, it'll be a tough day, but I won't be incinerated. I won't be irradiated. I won't be the other four things that will happen if you're in line of sight of the detonation within 100 miles, right? Now, there are things that could be a target that are, about 120 miles from me. What you call it, Oak Ridge is probably 200, maybe 300 miles from me. So that's, and, a few other things are like, there are some things that someone might hit, but then they're not really strategic. It's like oil, not oil wells, but, well, there's some fracking in West Virginia. That's not too far from me, and in Virginia, but atomic bomb on top of them, I don't think so. Right? There's some refineries near, within 80 miles of me. Atomic bomb on them. They're not gigantic facilities. No, I don't think so. There's no air bases, no military bases. That's why I picked this place. Since within this neck of the woods, this was as close to semi. And I picked a place that was amongst Sawtooth Mountains, and I'm down in a holler, right? So I'm not on top of all the really stupid rich people bought the property on the tippy tip top of. So if they detonate one on top of Oak Ridge, 300 miles away, and they're up there on the tippy top, and they're looking out the window, they're blind. If they're out on their deck and looking in that direction, they're not only blind but got a severe sunburn. Not third degree but severe. And if they're wearing, a polyester leisure suit, oh, it won't be like melted cheese, but it'll still be melted and still affecting their skin. So it won't, and they won't, and they will get a gamma dose, a serious gamma dose. It won't kill them immediately, but again, they'll probably wish they had a gun to eat. So that's what all the rich people did. It's like, really? Good luck with that. So here we are in October surprise land. And if you go back and look at every election of this, and the Democrats do their best to lose, right? There's so many things that they could have focused on that, but they did not, and the way the Democrats will win and do win is when their politics is local, coming from the bottom up. That's how Democrats win, right? From way in the back, from Tammany Hall. How the Democrats always won is that they went to all the beer halls and they brought the, the ballots with them and stuck, the ballot box right outside. Couldn't go inside the thing, but they went out and said, "Okay, everyone who votes for us out there, we'll give you 10. But we won't give you $10, but we will give you a tab here in the bar." Right. So that's what they did. That's how they won. Tammany Hall won all, up until 1953. I mean, this stuff is right in front of your face. Friggin' wake up! And such stuff's in America. It's in every place. All those countries. We're a democracy. Not really. France is not a democracy. England definitely not. I mean, look, they've had 3 prime ministers in less than 4 months, and no one voted on them. Ow. And I won't go any further. So, you know, good luck with that. Go watch. A good person to watch is George Carlin. You know, I subscribe to George Carlin's political point of view, and he grew up in the same neighborhood I did. I mean, I was a little further east from where he was. He was up in the Irish. He was like between the Italians where I was, and the Caribbeans over here, right on the doorstep of all the universities, and we were too. We were right next to him, right? And so, West Side Story. That was boy, boy, the Jets and the Sharks. So, anyway, movies are great because they really do give us the heads up of what's going on, right? So, uh, the other October surprise, and I've been saying this is going to happen tomorrow, or because it's happened many, many times already, and that is, you know, the flying saucer lands on the front lawn of the UN in New York and says, "Okay, kids, we've given you enough time. You're right about to incinerate yourselves. We're taking over now. We own you. We actually genetically engineered you back in the Nephilim days, and you were such cheeky monkeys that we 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 decided to just get off planet." Or, I mean, we're still here. We're underground. All our reptilian brothers are down there, and there are other whiter than white people, the Aryan folk. They're walking around watching, but we've been watching. We're now going to intervene, and there's this law that says you're not supposed to. But listen, we made you, so we own you, so we're taking over. It's childhood's end, right? So go read that book. And so, in that scene of 2001, the last one, when Dave the astronaut is flying back to Earth, in the whatever he came back as, and then bingo, he was this gigantic infant floating above Earth, and that's the last scene of the movie. That's kind of it. And there have been since 2000, since that movie was made in '69, I think, or '68. Basically, there have been folk on this planet who were those infants. Now, I'm a version of that. I'm a lucky bastard, right? I'm not quite that guy up there floating in space. As a still in the bag, but I've been sent before those guys to help them out, loosen things up, and so. But the other guys are going to land and say, "Okay, it's been enough. We're going to take over. It's time for Star Trek." And we've had your brethren out there. Space Force has been out there. The Nazis are out. Everybody's out there. So it's time to give. First off, that's a kick from my mom. My mom would sneeze. She was like a queen, every hair in place. And when we'd be out to dinner, she'd go, "Oh, ah, 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 ah," and all of us kids would get under the table. Shoo! And she'd like blow the dinners off of all the other fancy people that were surrounding us in that direction. So that sneeze was a tip of the hat to my mom. So Sandra, yeah, nobody else is saying anything except Sandra. And let's see. Let's look on where I can actually read it. Let's see. Well, let's try Two-Man again. Talk to him about robots. Boop, 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 boop. Do, 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 do. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to whatever. So welcome aboard to Dreamy Dreamland. You can hang up. Hey, Two Man, where are you, buddy? I've called you twice. I'm doing a live chat, and I wanted to bring you into that just to see how you're doing. Anyway, I'll call you again. You can text me when your days are off, and I'll try it then. Tomorrow, I should be able to do another show. So anyway, that's the story of it. So I've been on for 1 hour, 25 minutes, and 25 seconds. So I'm gonna bop off and go do some more chores. So anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Love you. Anyway, so that's that story. Let's make sure I have connected this boy to the weather. It's working on it. So what else can I say? I don't know. I think I told you enough of interesting stuff. Remember, October surprise. Today's the 25th or 4th. So let's say, the first Tuesday. Tuesday will be the 1st of November. So we got, see, Tuesday. So today's Wednesday, I think. Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah. So yesterday was we have 6 days. I think we've had a lot of October surprises so far, but it's but everything's really self-evident. I mean, right in our face. You look at, we're 8th of November is election day. Like that guy said, shit's going to happen probably to cut that off, right? Martial law, maybe? Who knows? So I got enough food to last me probably end of February, canned food and some other stuff that I got from the forest that I bagged up and put in a dry, cool spot. I mean, I have enough to because I really don't eat meat. I mean, I eat meat, but I can't afford it or keep it or anything of the above. So, and that's why I'm still losing weight. I haven't gotten below 190 yet. I kind of bounce around between 193 and 196. I haven't weighed myself in about a month. So maybe tomorrow I'll go to the doctors and do that. So anyway, what can I say? But I love you guys. And remember the 2 mantras. Conscious intent, I am. Conscious intent, I am. Conscious intent, I am. Conscious intent, I am. Okay? Good for you. Conscious awareness. With your 20 and with your 360, you need to see what's going on 360. See that more on 3 blocks away, so you can just be out of the harm's way. That's all you got to do. So I think it's time to go. MIC. See you real soon. KY. Because we love you. Larry, Larry, Larry.